Hello and many thanks for joining us. I am Imoni Amarere with People, Politics and Power. Now, when President Bola Tinubu recalled all of Nigeria's ambassadors in 2023, he initiated a sweeping reset of the country's foreign representation, a bold move illustrating ambition and a desire to reshape Nigeria's global posture. The current list of 68 nominees, a mixture of 37 career diplomats and 31 non-career ambassadors, marks the first major effort to restaff those foreign missions. Yet, the composition of the list is generating a lot of controversy. Many nominees are high-profile political actors, former ministers, ex-governors, former heads of national institutions, and insiders from past administrations. Critics argue that this signals a continuation of patronage rather than on merit or diplomacy-driven exercise. Structurally, the decision to restore only 68 ambassadors when Nigeria maintains some 109 foreign missions worldwide appears minimalist, perhaps overly so. Now, observers say that without a comprehensive review of missions, rationalization of posts, and clear strategy, this piecemeal restaffing risks creating symbolic postings rather than effective diplomacy. At its heart, the process reveals a deeper dilemma between the need for Nigeria to regain credible international representation built on experience and diplomatic capacity and the temptation to reward political loyalty under the guise of diplomacy. The stakes are high. Nigeria's foreign policy influence, its reputation abroad, and the welfare of its citizens overseas hinge significantly on who speaks for the country. Now, as we proceed, the key questions remain. Will the Senate confirm these nominees based on competence, integrity, and capacity? Or will foreign representation become another instrument of domestic political accommodation? And very importantly, is this the road to reshaping and resetting Nigeria's foreign relations in line with the 4Ds principle of the current administration? Well, these are the issues we will be taking a look at on the program today, and we'll be getting to meet our guests, analysts, right after this time out. Stay with us. All right, I get to meet our analyst, Ambassador Humphrey Ojiako is a retired Nigerian career diplomat. He was Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, amongst many other very important diplomatic postings that he held while in service, including, of course, his posting to Washington, D.C. in the United States. Ambassador Humphrey Ojiako, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
It's great to have you join us. We're also joined by Dr. Olusoji Adeniyi. Dr. Adeniyi is a retired global chair of the United Nations Joint Staff Pensions Funds and former head of administration at UNICEF here in Nigeria. Dr. Olusoji Adeniyi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Annie. Thank you. It's a pleasure
Great
to
to
join
have
you.
you. Right, so Ambassador Jacob, let's begin this way. You have seen the list of 68 ambassadorial nominees. 3 of them have already been screened and possibly cleared by the Senate. The remaining 65 are yet to be screened by the Senate. First, what's your take on that whole list? What's your overview of that entire list? Ambassador Jacob.
Okay, thank you so very much for inviting me to this program. You know, quite a lot of professionals and people in the diplomatic circles have expressed various opinions alongside so many citizens of Nigeria who have also expressed such concern that makes this particular exercise a little bit extraordinary, if I may use that word, because usually the appointment of ambassadors, specific prerogative of Mr. President and his foreign minister, this time seem to have become a subject for serious public discussion and concern and all of that. Honestly, my experience is the first time that is happening, and that's for obvious reasons. Some of the names, I'm not in a position to name anyone, but some of the names on the list, the political appointments, not the career ones, have raised a lot of hackles. And for me, there is also some concern because one thing many people forget or do not know in all of this is that for each of these nominees, the president has a prerogative, full authority to appoint them if they please him. But every prerogative, every power, every authority has also its responsibility, and we shouldn't forget that. The president is going to sign 2 letters for them if they pass through the Senate. One of those letters, a public declaration called a letter of credence. That letter of credence states, if I may just briefly read it, a bit of it for you. It says, know ye, that is advising the world, that I, reposing special trust and confidence in the discretion and faithfulness of my trustee and well-beloved, that whoever that person is, nominated him. And the reasons for that nomination, he has already stated that this person has approved wisdom. Wisdom, here is key, has approved loyalty, diligence, and above all else, circumspection. These are 4 conditions the president ought to consider before appointing anyone to represent him in the character of ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary in any country. So the special object for that is representing the interests of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So while the president has this authority to appoint whoever pleases him, he also is obliged to consider these things in the interests of the country they are going to represent, which is Nigeria. A person of approved wisdom, of loyalty. Loyalty to who? Is it loyalty to party? Is it loyalty to any individual, or loyalty to the Federal Republic of Nigeria? A person of approved diligence and, above all else, circumspection. These are conditions the president considers. It is left for the individual appreciator in this list of appointees whether all of them meet these 4 criteria. So that is my take.
Yeah, you have stated what the criteria should be uh, for the president to appoint anyone to a diplomatic position. Now, we have, Nigeria as a country has 109 missions abroad, and these are just 68. And issues have been raised about this piecemeal nomination of individuals to fill these positions. I mean, given the fact that those positions have been vacant for 2 years plus, shouldn't the president have nominated all 109, or is there a possibility that there will be a restructuring of these missions before further nominations are made?
Honestly, to the later question about restructuring the diplomatic services and structures of Nigeria, I'm not aware. I'm not in a position to comment on that. But what I'm in a position to comment on is that, yes, of the 900 or so missions, not all of them are representational at the level of ambassadors. Some are usually people you call consul generals, whom the president need not bother about appointing himself. The foreign minister could do that. Some others are missions at the level of chargé d'affaires en titre or chargé d'affaires ad interim. So the president doesn't need to get involved in appointing those ones. One other fact is that of those appointed that meet the criteria, the president has the obligation to insist that they meet these criteria for which a field of selection had been prepared for him in the case of Nigeria by the Constitution of the Federal Republic. That is the pool of officers who have been trained for this approval about their wisdom, about their loyalty, about their diligence, about their circumspection. That is what the Foreign Service is about. And for each of them to be qualified, to be said to have qualified of these four conditions, I can tell you from experience that not one of them has served the Nigerian Foreign Service for less than 20, 25 years. Some up to 3 decades, 30 years. So that's a ready field to pick people the president could say these are of approved wisdom, of approved loyalty to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, diligence and circumspection. I can guarantee, because they're speaking for me, they're representing me. In the other letter the president sends, that's the letter of credence, he's not just announcing to the world, now becomes specific, government to government. The president is telling another president or a king of a country or a queen or a head of state, whatever it's called, that this is my personal trustee. Deal with him, accommodate him, cooperate with him. Whatever he tells you is what I would have told you if I were there present. That is the import of this thing. So a president, yes, has the freedom to appoint people, but he also has the obligation to appoint people who will serve his country very well and not be a source of embarrassment. Because in some of the controversies we have had, we have seen people who one day they are criticizing the president, actually not even criticizing, but running him down, maligning his name and image, and on another day, they begin to sing a different song. And these facts are not just known to Nigerians. They are known to the very same host countries who have their own missions here, who know about these individuals and their opinions, the weather-vane nature of their beliefs and their loyalty and their diligence and their circumspection. So this is actually what I have to keep emphasizing on this, that we should have ambassadors. All of them need not be appointed at the same time. The president has a right to do that because the cost of running missions at the level of plenipotentiary and extraordinary could be quite a bit high. So if he chooses to appoint 68 now, or whatever number, and then maybe adjust as time goes on. But what I know is that for contending countries in the world, that countries that take diplomacy and its implications seriously, you don't just pick people because you want to give job to the boys. You don't just pick people because they say certain nice things today and say different things the next day and so on. Diplomacy at a representational level is not a joke. Not a joke at all.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Olusoji Adeniyi at this point in time. Dr. Adeniyi, you have also been in the diplomatic scene for quite a while. And so much has been said about whether or not those that the president have picked so far actually are strategic fit for those positions, or and whether or not they will provide the kind of representation, global representation for Nigeria's interests in the international community.
Thank you, Manny. I believe that Nigeria deserves the best when it comes to ambassadorial roles, and we're not short of people that can play in that space. Some of us are a bit disappointed at some of the names that have been reeled out from the presidency as nominees, but understanding how nominees are made, one can forgive the president and says that, to a large extent, he probably received this list from, political associates, governors, and people who are nominating them. I would always say the responsibility is on the parliament to actually screen these people and let us know if they're fit or not. I've advocated again and again that it should be an open screening. We should see them on live television, how they defend their own position. Some of them have been very undiplomatic, even in their, speaking engagements in the public space. We've seen some who have accused the president in the past, who have accused the government system to be illegitimate, and we have seen some who have not shown decorum in public spaces. We saw one that lambasted, a journalist on camera, calling him stupid and uncultured just for asking a question that should have been answered diplomatically. So I don't know how a person is going to fit a diplomatic space and not get upset if a Donald Trump trolls a question, that he normally would do when he wants to make you a bit uncomfortable. I don't know how someone who says I have a short fuse on national television would be an ambassador. I don't know how someone who says it is impossible and not in his DNA to work for the current government will suddenly do a U-turn and say he's born again and would want to serve the nation as an ambassador. So these are my questions, but I'll again defer to the National Assembly. It's the responsibility of the Senate. We elected them duly. We expected them to do their due diligence, and we will be happy to see them do their job and screen these people. And if they find them worthy in character and in competence, then so be it. The rest of us will do what we need to do, especially for those that we will need to teach how to be diplomatic, how to speak to the press. We can do all those teachings, but what happens to the character of these people? What happens to the footprints that they have on social media? What happens to all, their bad records that they have before, which, global journalists are aware of because it just takes a push of a button to look at digital footprints. So that's where I have a problem. And that's why I think these people will be hard sell, in the community. And Ambassador Radley says it. There's still going to be an agreement. The receiving countries still have to say we accept these people. So even if our Senate clears them and they goes on to be nominated and sent to those countries will do their own due diligence too. And if they found digital footprints that are inappropriate, I'm sure they will come back to our president and say, sorry, this is probably not a good fit. So again, let's be open. Thank you.
Okay, let's come back to the issue of striking a balance between career diplomats and non-career diplomats. Out of the 68 that have been nominated so far, 37 of them are career diplomats and 31 are non-career diplomats. Is that a good balance in your view?
Is that me?
I don't know whether that's for me or for Ambassador.
For you,
for me?
for you, yes. For you, Dr. Adeniyi.
It's fair balance. I saw, the numbers that are coming for career diplomats, it's a bit easier to deal with. I would believe that the president, in his wisdom, can choose the mix that he desires. But there's no problem with the mix. I see a lot of career diplomats, very experienced diplomats that have been nominated. The challenge we have is actually those non-career diplomats and those politicians that have been nominated. So I pray again that the National Assembly does their job. It's their job to actually check the balance as well, to ask questions. I'm sure Ambassador will tell us the experience when it comes to some of these people, brought in at times like this. Thank you.
All right, Ambassador Jacob, let's look at how these appointments, how they align with Nigeria's foreign policy goals. We do not appear to have done much or said much about the foreign policy goals of this administration, other than the fact that, well said, there are 4 Ds of this administration and all of that. How are these appointments aligned with those goals, the economic, security, and even diaspora goals of this administration in terms of foreign policy?
Okay, thank you. Before I address this latter question, let me add something on that issue of balance between career and non-career appointees. And then that means I'll have to take you back to 1957 when the Nigerian Foreign Service was established. That was the first actually ministry run by Nigerians, not colonial masters, even before independence. And Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the de facto foreign minister as well as a prime minister, And I can tell you this, the objective was very clear. That clarity had no ambiguity that, listen, Nigeria had to have, I have said that that booklet, that provision in the Foreign Service regulations provides for 70% appointment of career ambassadors and the rest 30% at the discretion of the president. Even then, that 30% has to meet these other criteria of whose qualities I've already listed. That said, then the other thing is foreign policy goals. The Senate, I am saying, has to be very diligent. Avoid this thing about take a bow because we are colleagues, or because you've been a legislator before, because no. An ambassador going to any country should have the informational gravitas. He should have the information. He should have the knowledge. He should have the circumspection to deal with the cultural relativities that obtain in that country. So it is left for them to match this against the foreign policy goals of Nigeria. That is the basic ones, is how to secure whatever resources exist in the host country, which our own country may require in order to grow its stability, grow its security, grow its economy, development, and so on. At the end of the day, that's what international relations are, relations between and among nations aspire to gain. It's not just a matter of showing the flag and friendship and all that. It's a matter of enhancing possibilities of your own security, your own stability in your country, your economic growth and development, stuff like that. So people who are nominated to go and pursue Nigeria's foreign policy goals, this, whether it is as it pertains to the diaspora, as it pertains to development and all the 4 Ds that the present administration says it is pursuing, they ought to be vast in this. And when you see names like former first ladies, wives of governors, you see names like all sorts of people, you begin to wonder if these people are qualified. If they are, please, by all means, let them go and represent us. If they are not, the Senate should be encouraged, should encourage itself to do its duty. That's what Nigerians expect.
Ambassador, let me push that a little bit further and look at the 4 Ds that this administration is pushing: democracy, development, demography, and diaspora. Looking at that list, even amongst the career diplomats themselves, do you think that these are people who can hit the ground running when, if and when they are cleared by the Senate and, of course, posted to their various diplomatic missions? People who, by the provisions of the 4D, democracy, who promote and defend democratic values anywhere they find themselves. People who will use diplomacy to advance Nigeria's economic growth and security, and diplomats who will leverage on Nigeria's large youth population as a strategic advantage in the international community, and of course, people who are capable of engaging with the very large population of Nigerians in the diaspora, and help to mobilize resources and knowledge back home for Nigeria's development.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, there are many people in the diplomatic circles who will argue that these things, democracy, diaspora, development, and demography, in themselves are not foreign policy objectives. They are simply instruments for achieving what Nigeria wants, But that's not the argument today. The argument today is, can the people appointed be able to leverage on these things to secure Nigeria's interests? First of all, it depends on which country you are sent to. And that is why 110 is not going right. That is the way that our nominees are being screened by the Senate. For the Senate to do a good job, there ought to be a list of not just the nominee, but which country he's nominated to go to. So if, for instance, you cannot speak or understand French, and you are screened and passed to go and represent Nigeria in France, honestly, you're going to be working like a carpenter without a hammer. So when you have a nail to hit on the board, you can't do use your hands. So this is one aspect of this. But for the career people you mentioned, any career officer who has spent 20, 25, 30 years in the service has been exposed to all of this, has been trained. He has to have had the language, a second or third United Nations language before he's appointed. So if you do not have the language, if you do not understand the culture, I don't see how you are going to leverage on Nigeria's development needs. You are going to leverage on the instruments of democracy we've established here in order to make Nigeria a friendly country to others who say, yes, we can do business with Nigeria. We can do business with Nigeria. So I will agree with those who say, don't put the cart before the horse. Before people go to the Senate to be screened, let us know which countries they are being proposed to go to. I think that's important.
In other words, they should be assigned a specific, well, for want of a better word, portfolios or countries that they will be sent to before they are sent to the Senate for screening.
Otherwise, what is the Senate screening? You have to ask them questions about what are the peculiarities of that country. If we are sending you to China to represent Nigeria, that's going to be heavily economic laden. So what do you know about Chinese culture? What do you know about the Chinese language? What do you know about the nuances of Chinese business dealings and its negotiating styles and principles and so on? These things matter. So it's important to put a round peg in a round hole. This is honestly why many people prefer career people. If a career person is sent to China and he does not understand the nuances of Chinese life, cultural living, then of course he can't be an effective, and the ministry will not even suggest him going to a country like that. But when it comes to political appointees, it is important that the president selects people of solid exposure to life who have to bring in another value. That value is their presence in the country, like the person who goes to Washington, D.C. Is he somebody who would be able to stand up without cowering in the presence of a Donald Trump, who can even get access to the State Department and to Senate and other places? That is important. But in his place, there should also be a career person who understands the deeper nuances of diplomacy to be able to deal with. So to be fair to the Senate, they are screening these people in the blind if you don't know where the person is going to, if you don't know which country is going to be sent to. Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly, Ambassador, look at the issue of equity and diversity in this list that the president has sent to the Senate. Are women and young professionals adequately represented on that list?
To be frank, there are people who have spoken to me on this and are talking about so many strange names. Strange people in the sense that they do not represent any particular constituency that ought to be encouraged to grow Nigeria, to push Nigeria forward, to make the image of Nigeria as a contending country in the world, improve our relevance in global geopolitics. Are they these people? Because I have seen wives of former governors or wives of governors. I don't know their backgrounds, but again, was that their principal objective, to leave playing first lady and become principal plenipotentiaries, extraordinary representatives of Nigeria in foreign countries? Are they prepared for that? So if you are talking about gender representation, maybe that's something to be looked into as well. But in the career area, if the ministry has qualified women, ladies who should be ambassadors, in my experience, they do not discriminate against them. For youths, yes, Nigeria belongs to the young people, and I think they should be prioritized in the process of selecting who represents Nigeria anywhere. And again, that recommends the foreign ministry selection process over and above those done outside the system of diplomacy. Because when you ask a governor to nominate, a governor nominates who he's comfortable with, whom he knows. The foreign ministry can't do that. The foreign ministry nominates according to the register they have of trained career officers, their grades, their ranks, their character stuff is observed. Gender sensitivity is observed. And of course, as you know, no serving foreign service officer would already have served more than 35 years, in which case none of them would have reached the age of 55 or so. So they are within that bracket of my sole recommendation would be still that 70% career and 30% non-career. The 30% going to certain missions that are not totally determinant of Nigeria's relevance in global geopolitics. That would be my preference. That would be the recommendation I would make to the president. For certain countries where you need a lot of political weight, places like Washington, D.C., like Paris, like Moscow, London, places like that. Yes, the president has every right to pick somebody he could trust within his own political and developmental persuasion as the person who will speak for him there. The good thing with such missions is they also have a number 2 ambassador who is almost always a career person. And if he's working in harmony with the ambassador, I think they could get the job done.
Mm. Okay, just before we go, Ambassador, the blanket recall of Nigerian diplomats in 2023 obviously created a big vacuum in the diplomatic service and in our relations with other countries of the world. Now, if and when these nominees are cleared by the Senate and then sent to these various countries, how long do you think And how much work do you think they need to do to bridge the gap that has been created by 2 long years of absence on the diplomatic scene?
In fact, they have a lot of work to do. And again, in my experience, 2023 was the first time that that kind of blanket, I experienced that kind of blanket recall, except probably sometime in immediately President Obasanjo came to office, took over from Abdul Salam, and that people were recalled again because of the short nature of that administration, of the previous administration. But usually, career officers, according to the profession, spend anywhere between 3 or 4 years at a post as heads of mission. That does not apply to political appointees who serve strictly at this. Of course.
All right, we do apologize for the very poor network today, but let's hope that it will be better next time. Let's draw the curtain there. Ambassador Humphrey Ojako, retired Nigerian career diplomat. He was Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva. In his service days, he was also Nigeria's representative in Washington, D.C., among many other diplomatic postings during his active service years. Thank you so much, Ambassador Humphrey Ojako. And Dr. Olusoji Adeniyi. Unfortunately, we lost contact with him, and we were unable to get him to really make his contributions. We look forward to having you again, Dr. Adeniyi. We do apologize for this very poor network today. Dr. Adeniyi is a retired global chair of the United Nations Joint Staff Pension Funds and a former head of administration at UNICEF here in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you
Thank you so much. Thank you, Soji, for having me.
Dr. Adeniyi, so you're back with us. Unfortunately, we must go now, but we look forward to having you again. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. Thank you. That's our program for today. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.